History remembers him as a monster, a name spat out like a curse, a synonym for the ultimate betrayal. But before Benedict Arnold was a traitor, he was a god of the battlefield. To understand the man who tried to kill a nation, you have to look past the ink-stained letters and into the smoke of 1775. Picture a man of battered limbs and brilliant mind charging into the frozen, blood-slicked streets of Quebec. Picture a general at the Battle of Saratoga, ignoring orders, leaping onto his horse and leading a charge so ferocious it forced a British surrender and changed the course of the world. He was the Revolution's favorite son. But beneath the medals and the scars, a wildfire of resentment was smoldering. While Arnold bled for the cause, his peers in Philadelphia played politics. They passed him over for promotions. They accused him of corruption. They dragged him through petty court-martials. By 1779, the hero was broke, crippled by a leg wound that never quite healed and nursing a pride that had turned to poison. He didn't just feel unappreciated, he felt hunted by the very country he was trying to save. Enter Philadelphia, 1779. It was a city of shifting loyalties and high society galas. It was here that the limping general met Peggy Shippen. She was young, beautiful, and came from a family that secretly toasted to the king. Peggy's social circle wasn't just wealthy, it was British. Her former flame, a charming British major named John André. As Arnold's bitterness toward Congress peaked, Peggy became the bridge. In the quiet corners of drawing rooms, over tea and candlelight, the conversation shifted from grievances to opportunities. This wasn't just a marriage of hearts, it was a marriage of shadows. Through Peggy, Arnold opened a secret channel to the enemy. The hero of Saratoga was now for sale, and the British were buying. By the summer of 1880, Arnold secured the post he'd been angling for, commander of West Point. To the Americans, West Point was a fortress. To the British, it was the Iron Key. It sat on a sharp bend of the Hudson River. If the British held West Point, they controlled the river. If they controlled the river, they could slice the colonies in two, cutting New England off from the south. The Revolution would be over in a week. In secret, Arnold began a clandestine ballet. He wrote letters in code using invisible ink and aliases. He became Mr. Moore, and his British contact, Major John André, became Mr. Anderson. The plan was elegant in its cruelty. Arnold would neglect the fortress. He would weaken the defenses, scatter the troops, and lower the river batteries. When the British fleets sailed up the Hudson, they wouldn't find a fight. They'd find an open door. September 21st, a moonless night. Arnold and André finally meet face to face in the woods near the Hudson. For hours they whisper over maps and ledgers. The price is set, £20,000, millions in today's money, and a high-ranking commission in the British Army. But as the sun begins to rise, the plan starts to fray. American cannons fire on the Vulture, forcing the ship to retreat downriver. André is trapped. He's forced to ditch his British uniform, put on civilian clothes, and try to sneak back to British-held New York by land. He's carrying a fake passport, but more importantly, he's carrying the death warrant of the American Revolution tucked inside his stocking. Arnold's handwritten plans of West Point. September 23rd, near Tarrytown, New York. André is almost home. He sees 3 men by the road, militiamen named Paulding, Williams, and Van Wart. In a fatal moment of confusion, André thinks they are Loyalists. He reveals himself. When he realizes his mistake, he tries to bribe him with his gold watch and promises of wealth. But these weren't men who could be bought. They stripped him, they searched his boots, and there they found the papers. The news traveled like lightning. When word reached Arnold that André had been captured, he was sitting at breakfast, waiting for George Washington to arrive for a scheduled visit. Arnold didn't panic. He moved. He abandoned his wife, abandoned his post, and rode like a madman to the river, escaping to the Vulture just minutes before Washington's men could grab him. The fallout was a physical blow to the nation. Washington was devastated, reportedly asking through tears, "Whom can we trust now?" John André, the charming spy, was hanged on October 2nd. He went to the gallows with more dignity than the man who sold him out. And Benedict Arnold? He got his money, he got his British uniform, but he never got his respect. The British used him, but they never trusted him. After all, how do you trust a man who betrays his own blood? He spent the rest of his life in London, a ghost of a man. He died in 1801, largely forgotten by the country he served and eternally hated by the country he birthed. The West Point conspiracy didn't break the revolution, it hardened it. It turned a ragtag group of rebels into a vigilant nation. It taught them that the greatest threat isn't the enemy at the gates, it's the one standing right beside you. Benedict Arnold's name remains etched in the archives of history, not for the battles he won, but for the soul he sold. A soldier's skill, a personal grievance, and a drawing-room conspiracy that nearly changed the map of a continent forever.